Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I am here again with Tara B. We are really enjoying these episodes where we get together and shoot the crap about stuff in the music
Right.
industry, just like we're hanging out at a coffee shop. And I've heard some great feedback from these episodes, so I'm glad you guys are enjoying them. And today I
hmm
thought we would talk about follow up because it's so important in so many areas of the music industry. And I think you have like a whole chapter on this in your book, Tara, right?
I do, just because it's so important. It's
Yes.
it's
So we'll
really
get
the
into the
key.
yes, we'll get into the booking follow up in a minute. But I just first want to talk about like why do you think that people have such a hard time following up on anything?
Well, I'm sure you probably agree with this, but I just think it's that mental assumption that if we haven't heard back even from someplace we've reached out to or our fans or, whatever it might be, don't you think there's a sense of right away kind of, oh, they probably rejected me. They don't like it. I'm sending too many emails. I'll whatever it might be that there's just this assumption. I mean, sadly, an assumption, but of just assuming that people don't want what we have or what we're asking, and there's kind of a negativity around it, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think we can go into the spiral of the mind, like you said, like all these ideas, oh well, I'm sure that they did this, or I'm sure that they just, don't want to hear from me, or and we're making all these assumptions.
Mhm.
And I think what helps is to think about your own activities, right? Have there been times when you have ignored someone's emails for a while just because you were busy or you weren't in a season where, what they
Right.
had to say made sense for you, but that didn't mean you didn't want to hear from them ever again?
Oh, so true. In fact, Bree, I was thinking about this the other day when I was literally deleting emails. And it was from people that I've subscribed to. And again, it's not like I don't ever want to hear from you. That's why I will delete them sometimes, because it's just like, well, not right now, but I still want to hear from them at some point, or there's something maybe they offer that I do want to learn or whatever. So it's even if I'm deleting it, doesn't mean I don't like them.
Yeah, and like let's just say someone's, subscribed to your emails and you're talking about booking and they're just not in the phase where they're booking right. Maybe they just had a
Right.
baby. Maybe they,
Right.
like they just moved or whatever. Like they can't be
Right.
booking right now, but yet they still want to learn about booking. They want to learn from you. That's why they subscribed. And
hmm
so, like you said, they just need to like delete them for a while, but they want to keep getting them.
Exactly. Have you found yourself, like, what do you think are some of the reasons too that people make the negative assumption, that somebody doesn't?
I think that we all have like such a lack of confidence. Even I go through seasons of like I'm on it. I know
Hmm.
what I'm doing. I'm excited about it. I feel good. I
Yeah.
know that and there's other seasons where it's like, oh, it's not working. I don't. And so you go through
Right.
this like roller coaster of confidence, and if you happen to be on the bottom of that when
hmm
you need to do the follow up, you just start immediately going into the negative.
Yeah. It's so true. And I think and that's why I think it's also important, that we even talk about it here or that we surround ourselves with other musicians that we're chatting with so that we understand we're not alone in those feelings. This is something that all of us, I mean, people deal it in other jobs too, but I think specifically in the music world where we're having to, put ourselves out there in many ways that could possibly get some rejection. Again, not that we have to or that we are, but we might think that we might get some. So,
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of been an underlying theme of what we've talked about on these shows. I think about it like a first one we did was about dealing with rejection, and then we've
mhm.
talked about, the mishaps on stage. Like it just helps people to know that like they're not the only ones going through that, and if something like that happens to them or if those thoughts are in their mind, like that's totally normal, but then there are ways to combat them and, there are people like us who have dealt with those and figured out ways to overcome those and keep moving forward.
Yeah. So, Bree, I'm curious too, like, why do you think, I mean, in general, why do you think follow-ups are important, in this world?
Oh, there's just so much going on. People are so busy. They're getting so many emails. Just so many people in their ear all the time, social media, et
Hmm.
cetera, right? Like
Right.
it's possible that, I mean, even just like the simplest thing, like even if you're reaching out, let's say on Instagram to people and you send somebody
Hmm.
a voice memo or something, which is what Tara recommends and I think is really, really effective. But
Hmm.
like, maybe they were listening to your voice memo and then their kid came in and they're like, I'm hungry, I need a snack. And then, you
Right.
you had to shut down your Instagram and go take care of your kid. And then by the time you got back to it, you forgot. And then it's not showing
Hmm.
up as a new message anymore. And
Right.
you really wanted to get back to that person, right?
Right. It's interesting. I just looked at a statistic. Honestly, this was yesterday because I was trying to think or see like how much of life do we remember on a general basis? And this is what I found. It said that of new information that we get, which of course we're getting new information all the time, said we lose 50% of that in the first hour and 70% within 24 hours.
That is so depressing.
I know.
Does it get worse? Like, I mean, we're both over 50. Does it get worse the older you get?
Probably.
Probably.
I didn't want to go down that deep dive.
Oh, I don't blame you. Sometimes I feel like all my brain pathways are full and there's no more space for new
Right.
stuff.
But I think that can also encourage us when we think about follow-ups is that, well, if that's what's happening with just let's say, the generalness of people, it's fine when we are trying to do a follow-up because they've probably already forgotten and it's not intentional.
Yep. And I don't mind at all. Like I get people reaching out to me for podcast interviews and stuff, and like a lot of times I get their thing and I'm like, I really should read this. They look interesting, but it's the
Hmm.
weekend. I don't have time.
Right?
I might like let it fall to the bottom of the inbox or I might just archive it. I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes I archive it because I'm like, you know, this person might be interesting, but like I have a full slate right now. But if they
Hmm.
really want to be on my show, they'll probably reach out again.
I know. And that's just sometimes I think
I
it's
feel
also
bad about that, but it's true.
well, it's because if you're inundated, if your schedule is super full, you're also trying to bide your time. And like Bree, you've got family too, and you've got a husband, and so other things,
And a church
and a church
job. And
job,
yes,
right?
exactly.
So of course you have to prioritize where and when. And again, it's not. It doesn't mean that we're rejecting those other people either. It
No.
might just be a not right now,
Yeah, and there's another aspect to that of like maybe I read their pitch and I'm like, like it
right?
could work, but like I'm not excited about it, so I shelve it. And if they were to come back to me with just a little bit of a different angle or a different, even like a different like initial sentence was like, here's where I think I can serve your audience, like very specific, that will
Yeah,
hook me back in.
right. I agree. So, so I think there's obviously we've talked about this before, but like there's different areas, especially in the music business, where we do have to do follow up. And I think I actually want to start with emails because I think you are so good at this.
Mhm.
And with like if we're offering something, like what might be the things that we might offer and that would require sending emails or consistently.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to fill a live show, if you're wanting to sell a certain merch line, if you're doing a Black Friday sale, like any of those things, if you're, wanting to get people in your Patreon, if you've got something exciting coming up, or if you're doing a crowdfunder, like so many things that
Mhm.
artists are doing that you should be emailing about. First of all, you should have an email list. You need to build
Right.
one in order to connect with them. But the thing is that you really need to get in front of them multiple times for them to remember, to take action. I mean, I have talked to several people lately who've done crowdfunders. They're like, there's plenty of people that were like, "Thank you for reaching back out again. I really meant to do this, but I got busy or I forgot and I didn't realize when the deadline was." Like you're doing a service for them by
Right.
doing that.
Well, and here's an interesting thing. I just thought of this because last night, so there's a product that I like of hair products, and I order them online and I wait till they have sales.
Hmm.
And all week they've been sending that they had 25% off, which wasn't a huge, but it was enough where it makes a difference. And so I wait until the last email. And that's not usually me, but it was just honestly like, do I really need this? Should I get this now? And then I made the decision because it was like, well, it's ending and I want to get that discount and I don't know when they're going to offer it next. And so the point is I saw at least, 2 emails a day the whole week and
Yep.
didn't respond to any of them. But was I mad about it? Actually not, because I wanted to be re-reminded because I did want this product.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've definitely done that before. And I think also back to like what I said earlier about the different angles, there are different
Yes.
people that respond for different reasons. Some people are your
Mhm.
early adopters and they immediately respond to what you have to say. And then there are the people that like need to think about it. There's the people that need like maybe a different angle of like a logical argument of why they would want this thing. Maybe there's only 10 available ever, and that's what's going to
Right.
appeal to them. And then maybe the other person is the emotional person, and they're like, they'll respond to like, remember when I did this song at the show? Now you can get these
Hmm.
handwritten lyrics for this song. There are only this many available, and you remind them like what a great experience they had at the show and why they would want this. So there's just different types of people, different angles you can use, and it's a follow-up, but it's not actually the same message every time.
Right. Which is a really great point. And you're right. Things are going to appeal differently, even on different days. Because I know sometimes if I hear a story, like maybe one time I hear a story from somebody and I will read it in an email. And another time I'm just like, nope, I don't have time for this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you never know who's going to resonate with it.
Yeah, and I want to say another thing that people don't do, that I do, especially for certain things that I really want to make sure people see, is I send to unopens. Do you do this?
Mm,
Resend to unopens, sometimes like the next day at maybe like a different time of day. And I find that
smart.
there's a certain percentage of people that did open it the second time and responded and clicked and all that stuff that I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't do that.
I think I used to be better about that. I haven't, but that's
You
super
kind of have to
smart.
remind yourself because you can't do it until after you actually send the email, and then you
Right.
can set it up to send to reopens.
Right.
And some email providers don't allow that or don't offer that as an easy. I mean, this is like an easy button. Like you just change the subject line and click send at this other time, and it's like takes 5 minutes.
Hmm. But I agree, even sending different times, because you're right. In fact, there's somebody I get that I subscribe to, and she sends emails out. Now she happens to live in California, so but the emails always come out because I'll get them in the morning, but they like and I'm in Central Time, so it's like for me, it's like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm never gonna see it until the next day. So it's just interesting to me that that's always when she sends her emails.
It's true.
And
It's true. I mean, I try to think about the different time zones, but like I have plenty of people in Europe, right? I'm
right.
sending it at my normal time to send is like 9:05 a.m. Eastern
Hmm.
time. But, for them, it's like almost dinner time.
Right. I know. And I understand we can't, every time, but it's just, yeah, thinking of sometimes maybe varying it a little bit. So,
Yep.
and that reminds me too of so in booking, when I'm doing follow-ups, like when I'm trying to book a gig, that's something I'm very, very mindful of am I sending it like am I sending an email? Am I calling? Am I messaging? Like varying those things. And
Mm,
then also,
ways
yeah,
of reaching out.
yeah, and then the time of day. I record every time I reach out to somebody, I'll record like what I'm doing for that of when I've talked to them or whatever because I've also learned with some people their booking hour might be the lunch hour
Hmm.
or it could be the end of a day and so
Yeah,
it's
that's a
just
good point. Like some people, and I know, I encourage this, like put blocks on your calendar of when you're going to work on booking. But if it's always the same time of day, that might
Mhm.
be a problem, right? So maybe have one that's in the morning and one that's in the afternoon or something.
And because we can, like with emails, you can schedule send a lot of things now.
Yep,
It's
that's a good point.
it's it's much easier and I don't know. Follow-ups to me, especially with booking gigs, um are so it's the only way actually you're going to continually get gigs.
Yeah, and let's talk about how you, because you talked about, I keep track of it, right? You tracking it. You have a spreadsheet or something.
Mhm.
So you really have to be on top of your admin because let's be honest, right? In our mind, we think, oh, I've already followed up with these people so many times. We
Yeah.
start talking ourselves out of it. But if you actually look at what you did, you actually probably only followed up once or twice.
Right. And I was thinking about this too recently that how often do I follow up with somebody on average, even for a rebooking?
Hmm.
Because it's not always just about getting the first gig, because even when people like you, they can, once you're out of sight, you can be out of mind.
Yep.
And so I think the average is about like 3 to 7 times,
Ooh,
and
that's good to
probably
know.
more on that 7 times, especially if it's newer. Just because, again, depending on how you're reaching out, but it's just people are simply busy. And I again, this is just real world stuff, but just yesterday I was doing some booking and there was a new place I had emailed about a couple months ago, and they said, "Well, we're not booking right now, like we're full for the year, but reach out in September, October." And so I did, and right away the lady was like, "Hey, let's get you on the schedule for 2026."
Mm.
And but if I hadn't, I really don't think if I hadn't reached out, I'm not so sure she would have remembered me.
Oh, for sure. And that they have cycles, right? Like she told you
Right.
to reach back out in September, October because she knew that's when I'm basically booking out everything for the entire year.
And that's what she said. Yeah, she
Oh.
said 2026. And so so that's why too. I mean, sometimes we just happen to hit the right time too
Mhm.
with them, but I want to encourage people that even when you've done places, don't wait for them to call you again. Like if especially if they said they really liked it, be the one to just continually reach out because again, they've got a lot of things on their plate and they may not remember.
Yep. And do you do stuff after you've done gigs to follow up with them, like send a thank you note or thank you email or what is kind of your regimen around that?
I've done a variety. If it's a new place, a lot of times I'll actually send a thank you in the mail, like
Mm.
snail mail.
Yes.
But if not, even just yes, a follow-up email of thanking them for again singing or saying like I really enjoyed this, and then sometimes in that same email saying, hey, if there's something on future that we can do together, that would be great.
And you know what's so cool for doing that is when you do go to follow up later, of like maybe you go back a few months later to, reconnect with them and see if they've got
Right.
more. What you can do is you can just respond to that email where you've already had a conversation with them instead of starting a whole new string and then
Yes.
it'll show to them like, oh, I've already spoken to this person. I might not remember their name, but clearly we've had them here before and I've talked to them.
Good point. Yes, keep the thread.
Mm.
I've done that many times just to make sure that people do remember who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really wise to
Really
pull it
smart.
up that way. Yeah.
Well,
So
what else do we need to talk about around follow-ups? I know we talked about maybe talking about testimonials, which is kind of probably could do a
yes.
whole episode on this, but maybe
How do
that'll be
you
the
go
next
about
one.
how do you go about doing those?
When I was booking all the time, what I did do is in the follow-up, I would, after the gig, I
Hmm.
would in that email, thank them, maybe mention something in particular that I loved about their venue or about their people or whatever. And then I would just ask them like, hey, like the most useful thing to me is to get words from people that have seen me perform. If, I would love it if you'd be willing to just write one sentence,
Yeah.
you know? And
And that's
usually I'd say like 50% of the time they responded back with a sentence.
well, it's true. Sometimes just making sure that there is. yeah, you're giving them a parameter or
Hmm.
just I'm sorry, I have a cat here who is meowing. He wants
Oh,
to be on the
you
podcast.
can't hear the cat either. I miss the cat.
Right. Anyway, yeah, I think giving somebody the parameter of like just write one sentence or even just saying like, is there something that you really liked that this appealed to your audience or, like a specific question.
Yes. Yeah. I think if you just say, will you give me a testimonial? You're not going to get a response because they're like, well, let me think about it. And then
Right.
they don't, they feel uncomfortable about like their writing because they know it's going to be, put somewhere. So they want to make sure they do a good job writing it. So yeah, I think,
Right.
and they probably think testimonial means it has to be a paragraph.
That's so true. I was thinking about this too with people that are teachers or like have students and maybe that's in the music business that's what they're doing, they're teaching lessons and they want testimonials from either the students or the parents, and I think a good time to get those is like during a recital or right after a recital where it's very
Exactly.
fresh.
Yeah. After the recital, just send all your parents to, ask them to give you a Google review or something or a Yelp review. That'd be really smart.
Yeah. The one place I was thinking I'm so remiss on, and I have thought of this time and time again. And since I have a tribute show coming up, I'm wondering, will I remember this? But is post concert of getting video from someone. Have you ever done that?
Yes, like if I know that they did video, I will
Hmm.
ask for sure. And sometimes they'll give it to you and sometimes they won't, and that's okay, but you may as well ask.
Well, because I'm just thinking so often after a show like that, people will come out and I'm greeting them and they're
Oh,
saying
that
thank
kind of
you.
video, like
That
get
kind,
like
that's what I'm
interview.
talking.
Kayla, who's on my team, I've seen some social media posts of her doing that, and I'm like, that is so effective. Like, because it's
And,
right on the spot, right? Like she probably
right,
just asks somebody to go up to random people and say, like,
right,
what did you experience? What was your experience with the show tonight? And they're
right.
just raving about her.
Yes. And I'm just thinking because it's so fresh and I honestly have forgotten to do it so often myself. But I have a feeling there's people that would probably even say it, like you said, a sentence.
Yep. Yep. I think the key is to assign someone else to do it because when you're the artist,
True.
you need to be talking with people. You might even need to be running the merch table, like,
Right,
depending on how big
true.
the gig is and stuff. So if
True.
you had someone else that came with you that would be willing to do that, like, that would be
Hmm.
so great.
Yep. And even if that you get them on video, but maybe they don't want you to play the video, but you've at least got what they said that you can
Hmm.
ask if you could quote them.
Yes.
That's another great thing. So
Yeah, some people don't like to be on video, but
I know.
some people are
It,
totally fine with it, especially if they're, super fans. They probably
right,
love it.
right, right. So I think obviously the important thing is we need to follow up.
Yeah, we
Again,
need to we need to be strategic about follow-up and we need to I think it's having it top of mind when the thing is happening. I think that's really the issue is like
yeah, you're
we
right.
we do need to be in the moment when we're performing and figuring out how to get that later
Hmm.
and have a system, like a tickle system, right? Like a few days after the performance, make sure that your Asana sends you an assignment to do it.
Right. That's true. I have to admit, like even my reminders tab on my phone, I have been using that so much more in the last couple of years because otherwise it's just out of my head that quickly.
Yep.
So,
Yep, that's how it can be. Well, is there
yeah.
anything else we want to talk about around follow-up? I think this has been really actionable and strategic for sure. And there's so many things in here that people can just immediately start doing that if they haven't been doing the follow-up.
Yeah. The only other thing I just am wondering, do you have any insight into when people feel unmotivated to do the follow-up?
Uh,
Because, it isn't the easiest job.
Reach out to me on social media and I'll kick you in the butt. No, I don't know. Sometimes you just need somebody to be like, just do it. Just do
Yes.
it. It's not, I think the thing that helps is to think through like what's the worst thing that can happen if I do
Mm,
this, right? If I send
true.
this follow-up email, you know, they're gonna hate me forever and like never invite me back. Okay, is that like the worst possible thing that can happen? You know
Right.
that your life is gonna be okay if that happens.
Yeah.
But so then you just move on, right? But the
Right.
likelihood, 99.9% of the chance is that's not gonna happen. And
Right.
so then what are the good things that could happen if I did this thing?
Right. And just remind yourself, look at your emails that you get every day from different corporations, different things. Just remind yourself, look, they're sending you, Target has no problem sending me emails
Oh my
multiple times a
gosh.
day.
Yes, no, retailers are like relentless.
Relentless.
So
So,
I don't feel bad about sending, 4 or 5 emails a week.
right. I mean, really. So just kind of try to keep that in mind as you're thinking, like if you're scared to do it, remember what you get in your inbox every day.
Yep. And remember, it's permission based. Like we can always delete, they
Yes.
can always delete them. They can if it's your email list, they can unsubscribe if they don't want to hear from you anymore. That's totally fine.
Right.
Some people like really wanted to hear from me when they were in a certain season, and now, maybe they're retired from music. They don't want to hear from me. Cool. Then they don't need
Right.
to. And they have that right and ability, or they can delete until they're ready to hear from me again.
Mhm.
And with the follow-up people, like if they really don't want to hear from you, they'll respond. They'll be like,
Right.
"Hey, just so we shut down the venue," or "Hey, like we're not, paying people anymore. We can't afford it," or whatever it is.
Right.
Like if they get sick of you, they'll probably get so sick that they'll let you know.
Right. And also social media. Don't worry about that either because it's like they can scroll on past you.
Yes. Yeah.
There's always that option, but you have the option of what you put in front of people. Like you're the one in charge of that. So
Yep.
keep on. Right.
Keep on keeping on. And if you need some motivation, reach out to us on social media. I know both of us are mostly pretty active on Instagram. So
Yes.
reach out to us. I am at Profitable Musician LLC, and Tara is at.
Tara Bruschi music.
Just reach out to us. Say
Yeah.
like, I need a kick in the butt. I need a motivational hit today, and we'll do it.
Well, and also our books, because Bree, I know your book. Remind them of your title of your book.
Oh, yes. So my book is The Musician's Profit Path, and it has true to form checklists at the end of every chapter to make
There
sure
you
that you
go.
do what you want to do, right?
Right. And mine's just a little quick one. It's 20 must-have booking tips every musician needs. It's all in booking, but it's very much like step A, step B, kind of thing
Yep.
too. So,
And they're both
yeah.
on Amazon. And there's a whole chapter in there about follow-up. So get Tara's
Yes.
book and read it to remind yourself of all the things you're doing.
Well, this is awesome, Bree.
This has been so fun.
Yeah,
Cool. Well, maybe we'll do one specifically about testimonials because I think that's a really good subject. And it's a bigger subject, I think, than we could talk about now, but I think it'd be
sure.
really helpful.
Yeah. But thanks everybody for listening today. We so appreciate it.
Yes, and we have such a good time doing this. So keep listening and we'll keep doing it.